Hey everyone, it's Nancy, the nurse practitioner here, and we have another great video for you tonight. We're going to be talking with Rachaell Corbett. She's got a master's degree. She's an occupational therapist, and she's been one for over 15 years. And the subject is, do you have concerns about your parent or loved one driving? I don't know about you guys, but I've heard this over and over again. Actually, Rachaell, just before we get into this, and you're reminding me about my dad. He left a party in his own car and he knocked every mailbox down all the way down a street. Every single one of them he hit. I could not tell you a lie. Anyway, it made us realize that we had to do something. And what do you do with a 79-year-old guy who's a lawyer, who's very independent, drives everywhere, and is going to lose that independence? This is a tough, tough subject.
It is.
And it's really hard for clinicians to say, I'm taking away your keys. And we don't like to be the bad guy, and neither do the children. So we love you because your services, she's a driver rehab specialist and a low vision specialist. We're going to go over exactly what those roles are. But just so you know, everyone, we're going to go over the purpose of a driver's assessment. If you're concerned about your parent or somebody or yourself and saying, I want to see, is there anything that I need to be looked at to see if I'm safe to be on the road and I need an assessment? There's a behind the wheel assessment we're going to look at. What does someone have to do to be seen for a driver assessment? And then there's a really great program, which is how Rachaell is paid, is through Easter Seals. So it's a not-for-profit. So take it away, Rachaell. Let's start with, maybe you could tell us more about you and what got you involved with this program.
Sure. So I've been an occupational therapist now for almost 15 years. And being an OT, I've kind of been in all different fields. So I've worked in inpatient, I've worked in outpatient, I've done acute care in the hospitals. I started some low vision clinics with Lions Low Vision, of Fairfield, New Haven County. So I've kind of seen the whole gamut of, services, inpatient and outpatient. So I was working in outpatient, and I was offered a position to become a driver rehab specialist. And I felt that that job would actually take everything that I've learned my entire career and kind of put it all into one. So I'm able to look at somebody from so many different angles because of the experience that I have, and really understand where someone's coming from and how I can help them to either maintain independence, or maybe it's time to retire from driving and assist them with that.
I get you. Can you tell everybody what an occupational therapist is? Because not everybody knows what an OT is.
It's a confusing title, right?
It's a great title. My sister,
I don't find people jobs.
Oh, yeah. No, but I always learned it was above the waist person.
Yeah.
And then
that's another description.
And it's like,
True.
But I know that in home care is doing clinical work. If there was no PT, an OT would come in and sort of pick up the pieces. So, our bodies are all connected. So anyway, tell them what you do, exactly what that role is.
So as an occupational therapist, we call it our skills for the job of living. So if you think about things you do on a daily basis, you're bathing, you're dressing, cooking, cleaning, laundry, driving, all of those skills require vision and cognition and physical abilities to be able to perform all of those things. So we are trained to look at the whole person to understand where someone might have a deficit, and then help them to either compensate for that deficit or remediate that deficit, depending on, kind of what's happening.
What a great job, just helping people move through life, depending on, and actually maybe totally rehabilitate from like a stroke.
Right. Exactly.
It's either getting them to the point where they feel that they have, some independence based on their residual problems, whatever they may be, or totally rehabilitate to maybe 99%,
Right, exactly.
So they could be back in the world again,
Exactly.
So cool.
Yeah.
So that's great. So we understand how you got there. Now, so the driver rehab specialist is what we're going to go over today. What's a low vision specialist?
So for low vision, I work mainly with people that are legally blind, but not completely blind. So completely blind means you have no sense of light, nothing. But legally blind means that, yeah, you do have some vision and some of it is usable. So for people that have macular degeneration, where they have a central vision loss, or someone that has glaucoma, where they have a peripheral vision loss,
Mhm.
or maybe someone had a field cut from a stroke where they're missing parts of their vision
Yeah.
in their eyes due to a stroke.
Mhm.
So I work with those clients to assist them to use the vision they have available to them, and then enhance that as needed with magnification, lighting, various other low vision aids.
So can you do stuff in a car to make it actually more accessible, like change mirrors, add mirrors,
Yes,
things like that?
yeah,
So you make
absolutely,
them able to find that blind spot easier and all that.
exactly.
So cool, because you're right, like hemianopsia, I always thought about that.
Yes,
What happens
mhm,
when you just like, lost a piece of your vision? How are you
right,
to see who's coming on the right or the left, you know?
right, exactly.
Very scary, you
It
know?
is very scary, yes, definitely.
But it's so nice to know that you're looking at the whole person and you're helping them figure this out. So we
Yeah.
understand the purpose of a driver assessment. What is the common diagnoses that you actually see for an assessment?
So the diagnoses are kind of all over the place. I see patients anywhere from adolescent to geriatric. And a lot of the geriatric population that we're seeing is due to mild cognitive impairment or memory loss, or, maybe someone just had their first neuropsych eval and, it's been identified that maybe there's a possible dementia and the doctor wants to have, kind of a baseline on that person to decide whether or not they should be driving. Um, I'll
Let me
see
cut you off
people.
for a second on that. That means you
Yeah,
might see that person again
correct,
in
correct.
6 months as their
Yes,
their numbers change on the dementia scale. Okay.
exactly.
So you
Yes.
see the same person over and over for years.
Yeah, I definitely do a lot of reassessments on people.
Uh-huh.
If they are found to be appropriate to be driving at that time, it might be with restrictions. But, they then come back for a reassessment to see, okay, has there been a change? Yes, no, was it significant, was it not? And really it's a discussion that's had with the client, their family. I get notes from the doctor so that I have all the information that I need to make the best decision that I can regarding that person's safety behind the wheel.
Can you see the person again and say, I think I want to see you again in 4 months, or do you need the doctor's order or something?
No, I
The
can
clinician's order?
say I would like to see you again in 4 months or 6 months. And obviously we take the diagnosis heavily,
Yeah.
into our thoughts when we're thinking about what that decision is going to be.
So before we go any further, how do you get this dynamics where the person agrees to come in if the doctor says, I mean, you don't want to threaten anybody with them taking away your keys, pop,
Right,
or
right.
whatever. And it's
Yeah.
not funny because we all reach
Yeah.
a point in our lives. And
Oh, absolutely.
some people say though, I don't want to drive anymore. I
Some
think
people
it's
do. Some people come
scary.
to that conclusion on their own, which is
Yeah.
great. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily have that insight,
Mhm.
and they don't want to listen to what's being told to them by their family and by their doctor. And so
Mhm.
that's usually when the doctor says, okay, well, I'm going to send you for a driver assessment,
Mhm.
and I want to read that report, and then we'll discuss after. Depending on the doctor, there are some doctors that are very serious about it that will tell people that, you know what, if you don't go, I'm going to suspend your license.
They'll call the driver,
So, right.
Department of Driving, whatever, to stop it. What about nurse practitioners and PAs? Can they write prescriptions as
Oh,
well for you?
absolutely. Yep.
I would hope so. That's
Hmm.
great because 'cause I'm an
Yep.
NP and I'm like, we definitely would refer to you. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so how do you have that conversation? Because you're the first person in the hot seat after they come to you.
Yes. So I usually start my assessment by just explaining what we're going to do. I explain to them why they're here. And first, I ask them why they're here because I'm trying to get a feel for if they understand why they're here or if they're, kind of just, well, my family member brought me here and that's why I'm here,
That's
So
fair.
I then explain to them, especially if they're upset, especially when it comes to, those cognitive clients, that, maybe your doctor sent you here because they just want to get a baseline on kind of where you're at right now, as
Mhm,
far as your abilities to be able to safely operate a motor vehicle.
mhm,
And, we need to do all the testing. And then I'm going to explain everything at the end. And
Mhm.
we're going to talk about, the fact that the testing that I'm using here in the clinic, I use because it has research behind it. So based on the scores, that's going to be predictive of how someone is going to perform behind the wheel. So I use that to say, okay, this is not to say that, you can't do this, but this is to say that, hey, you know what? I found some concerns
Mhm.
that might be a problem. And now I'm going to take you for a drive and we're going to see, how we do.
So you do a full assessment. What do you do as part of your driver assessment? Tell me what.
So I do a lot of cognitive testing to look at, those executive functions of the brain. So someone's ability to be able to, problem solve and multitask and rapidly shift attention and, be able to have good judgment and insight into, what's happening. So obviously executive functioning is kind of key if you're going to be operating a motor vehicle. So I
So do
do a
you
lot of
have a
testing.
tool page? Do you have a page or a computer uh, database or program that you use that makes you pick along, or you just
No, it's not a program. It's just like commonly used tests that actually a lot of neuropsych uses as well,
like
because
what do
there
you
is
use?
research.
Like
What's
mini
that?
mental exam? Like do you use a mini mental or something totally different than that?
Yeah, sometimes that the MOCA, there's a whole bunch of different tests out there. Trails A, Trails B, you
Okay.
know,
Okay.
yeah. So different testing to really get an idea of someone's cognitive functioning.
Okay. And physical abilities. So what do you have them do to just
So
sort of, mhm.
because I'm an OT, obviously I'm trained in looking at, the range of motion and the strength and the coordination and all of that.
Mhm.
So I do a full assessment of their upper extremities and lower extremities. I look at their coordination. I look at sensation. I look at, their body awareness. If they close their eyes and I move their ankle around and they don't know where it is in space, that could maybe be a problem, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I look at all of those physical abilities, also looking at balance and endurance. If someone is on oxygen and they're walking with a walker, do they have the ability to, one, get in and out of their car, two, get their mobility device in and out of their car, three, be able to, breathe properly while they are doing all of these things.
Yeah.
So we're really looking at, the whole person
Yeah.
and how they're functioning. Because once they get to their location, they need to be able to mobilize in the community.
Yeah, so you're doing the in the car, during,
Mhm.
and out of the car, and you're
Correct.
assessing the entire piece, and it all has to pass in order for you to go be able to drive, period, which
Right.
makes sense.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it's great if you can get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
However, if
Yeah,
you
how did
can't
you
get
get
out of the car,
how'd you get there?
exactly,
3
that's kind
people in the
kind of a
parking
problem.
lot. Yeah, and it's not funny, but it's
Right.
really true. Can you
Right.
independently get in, even
Mhm.
if you have to lift my mother-in-law lifts her left leg and pulls it in. I mean, only because
Right.
she's short and
Mhm.
she can't get in there, but I've watched
No.
her get in and out of the car and,
Right.
she does certain things to accommodate, or compensate, I should say.
Oh, absolutely. And, I look at that too because I'm also CarFit certified. So I, look at the person sitting in the driver's seat, getting in and out of the car, and I can actually suggest adaptive equipment for getting in and out of the car. Simple stuff, like a
Really,
swivel cushion.
really cool. Because you
Yeah,
buy a
using a
car,
leg
you buy
lifter.
yeah, you buy an SUV, but if you're 4'11",
Yes,
how
it doesn't work very
how are
well.
you supposed to get in there? That's
Right.
that's her issue, and
Mhm.
maybe we could talk later, but like you said, eventually she's gonna have more trouble just getting in that car, Maybe
Exactly.
she needs a step stool.
Right.
Pull
She might.
pulls up and goes under the seat.
Right, or she might need a grab bar somewhere, placed in the vehicle strategically so that she has something to pull up on to be able to get in and out.
What a great thing, because she does struggle, and I see that, so
Yeah.
interesting. So, then you take them behind the wheel after you've looked them over, had this nice chat, and now
Mhm.
you're
Well,
building
I
your tool.
also do a lot with vision.
Oh,
So
yeah?
90 to 95% of driving is visual. So if you think about it, all of us as we age, our cognitive processing slows down, all of our overall processing speed slows down.
Yeah.
So if someone is not attending visually to everything that they needed to attend to,
Mhm.
then there's no way that they could cognitively make a good decision because they're not getting all the information.
Right.
So that can result in, not noticing things, which could result in poor reaction time and accidents.
Mm-hmm.
or delayed responses to something that they notice after the fact.
Right, exactly. And
Mhm.
the interesting sad thing is my father-in-law lost his license, or he was suspended. He actually hit somebody on a motorcycle at a light, and he said the sun was in his eyes, but we don't know for sure
Right.
how that happened. But that started the whole thing
The
about
whole
maybe
thing.
you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you say the sun in his eyes too. A lot of people are very glare sensitive too.
Mhm,
And sometimes if they have a low vision diagnosis, like a
mhm,
macular degeneration, they are very glare sensitive and they might need something to assist them with that glare, blocking the glare, or
mhm.
they might have a delayed glare recovery. So chances are they should probably not be driving at night, definitely. Or, during hours of the day where, the sun is like really, kind of in their face.
And it's interesting you say that. I just went to the eye doctor today for me, and she says that she has glasses she gave me for distance, and she
Mhm,
says, you're starting to get like a little high pressure in one of your eyes, and you
mhm.
should carry these glasses. So if your contact starts to bother you while you're driving, take it out and
Yeah.
wear your glasses home at night. And I'm like, I never thought of leaving my vision long distance glasses in the car. And I'm 63. So imagine when you're in your 80s, if you don't have the
Well,
tools
and
in
that's
your
it.
car, you
Exactly.
gotta have your tools around you. So I'm gonna put those glasses in the car because I might get stuck with glare at
Right.
night,
Right.
right
And the
now.
the other piece of vision too is that, the DMV looks at, your distance acuity, your peripheral vision. Well, that's great, but visual perceptual skills are very important. So
They
if
are
you can't
very,
if you can't perceive depth, if you can't perceive low contrast, if you can't perceive color, then, that can definitely have an effect on your performance behind the wheel.
yeah, did the light turn red or green? Um,
Well, yeah, or, you can't judge the distance between two things, so you have
y
no idea how close you are to the vehicle in front of you. So you rear-ended somebody because you thought you were stopping, in a timely manner. However, you're right on top of that vehicle.
and, I'll say one more story, and this is not to make fun in any regard because I know how serious this, but I was
Yeah.
sitting in my car eating a sandwich in a parking lot, and an older woman pulled up in her car in front of me, and there was a shiny red new truck. And she actually pulled her car into the space next to him, and she squeaked her car all the way up the side of his new
Oh
shiny
boy.
truck. And then she realized something was wrong, and she backed her car, squeaked all the way
Oh,
across the truck,
no.
and she went to the around the parking lot, and I'm eating my sandwich watching this like, "Wow, okay," and she parked somewhere else. It
Yeah.
turned out I did kinda connect the 2 people, and the
Mhm.
man who owned the truck felt very bad for her, and he was very nice.
Yeah,
But I think things must have happened after that, and she obviously
probably.
didn't have vision on to see that she was gonna
Mhm.
squeak along that car there. Um,
Right.
Important to know
Sometimes the
that.
hearing plays into that too, because they don't hear it. So if someone, maybe should be wearing a hearing aid but doesn't, or,
Mm,
they are wearing it, but it's still not really helping them that much, they're
yeah.
not hearing what's happening,
Mm.
as far as that scratching or maybe sirens or horns, things like that. That can also be very dangerous.
Very, very interesting. So what are the type of diagnoses you run into? Because we kind of skipped over that, but tell me, besides dementia or people who have cognitive changes.
Yeah. I see a lot of people that have peripheral neuropathy,
Mhm,
a lot of people that have had a stroke, a lot of people with MS, muscular dystrophy, spinal cord injuries, amputations due to diabetes or something traumatic that has happened to somebody, a lot of traumatic brain injuries, um, kids with autism. I mean, you name it, kids with ADHD. It's literally all over the place.
So you're bringing me to a really, really important point here. It's not that we're putting an axe, on you and so you never can
Mhm.
drive. You just need maybe adaptive equipment to be independent.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's the first thing everyone we need to be thinking about is we don't want to take you off the road. We want to make
Right.
you A, safe, you feel safe.
Mhm.
Because I think we do know inside when
Right.
things are just not right, but we don't want to stop going because we'll lose our independence.
Right. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
if it's put out there, and if you think about that, everybody, if you could have adaptive ways of getting in and out of your car, and you're too short, or whatever, one
Mhm.
leg, you can have anything adaptive to make you succeed if
Right.
everything else is cognitively in place to allow you.
Right, exactly. So, if you're going to be using any type of adaptive equipment with driving, obviously the cognition and the vision need to be, within functional limits.
Number one,
Um,
those are priority number
yes,
one.
yes, that's priority number one. Because you have to be able to understand how to learn how to operate the equipment. So, for example, if someone has a peripheral neuropathy, and I test their sensation and I test their body awareness and their strength, and you know, it's just not functional for driving, and
Mhm.
they can't move their foot from the gas to the brake, in a timely manner, or
Right.
they're using their hand to lift up their leg to move it over to the pedal,
Got it.
that it's time to talk about hand controls.
So are they in the car with you and you have your own steering wheel? How do you do that? Like a driving teacher?
Yeah, it's kind of like a driver's ed car. I don't have my own steering wheel, but
Oh,
I do have my own
oh
brake.
no.
I grab a lot of steering wheels.
You grab a lot of steering wheels. Oh my goodness. But you have
Yeah,
brakes. You have
I
brakes.
have my own brake. I have my own
Okay.
brake, yes. So
All
people
right.
always say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you do this. You're crazy." And I'm like, but I'm not crazy because I'm controlling the environment.
Yeah.
So if I've done your clinical assessment, I understand what your deficits are, and
Yes.
I can then understand that, okay, we're starting in an empty parking lot.
Yeah.
We may or may not get out of that parking lot. We'll see.
No, that's exactly how you have to look at it. We don't get on the highway right away off the.
Exactly. We're not getting right on the highway. And also, too, if you're someone that doesn't drive on the highway, I'm not going to take you on the highway. So,
Yeah.
you really have to interview that person to understand, where were they driving? How much were they driving? When were they driving?
Right.
To provide them with a fair test, essentially.
Well, I will say one more story because I'm always full of stories. But I had a lady come to the office and she said that she got in her car from New York and landed up in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And she didn't know how she kind of got there. She
Mhm.
was in my office for a visit. The children made her come, kind of come in. And they
Right.
wanted me to figure out whether she should be driving her car. And actually, the one thing I said to her is I said, "Did you know how you got to Pennsylvania?" She says, "I really don't know how that kind of happened."
Mhm.
And then I said, "Just think about this. What if you got in a car accident with a mom with her two little babies in the back seat,
Mhm.
and you were part of the reason this happened?" And she says, "Here's my keys."
Yeah.
She did,
Yeah.
she realized not that I wanted to say you're going to hurt somebody, but she
Right.
realized
Right.
that she was not safe. And that was the trigger for her to say, "I don't think I better do this
Well,
anymore."
exactly. And I found that when I sit down with my clients at the end of everything and discuss everything, it's all how you talk to people. So I just tell
Absolutely.
them, like, listen, this is what I saw, and this is how this relates, to your safety. And these are my concerns and why. And this is why I think what I think. And then if it is where I'm suggesting that someone no longer drives, then I try to help them with, resources as far as alternate modes of transportation, or
Good
hey,
point.
why don't you? Yeah, I mean, just trying to help them navigate that, because that's not easy either. Because some people live in very remote areas where there is no public transportation, and I don't know too many people that are using Uber right now with COVID. So it really doesn't make it easy, you
No,
know?
no, it doesn't. You're not wide open because there are a lot of
Right.
things through like Meals on Wheels and other programs, Office for the Aging, that
Absolutely.
will tell
Yes,
you we have transportation. And
exactly.
interestingly enough, as I did house calls, I found wonderful retired people who just wanted to help
Mhm.
other older people get to doctor's appointments, and
Yep,
they would know them
absolutely.
really well and take them everywhere. It's
Yeah.
very, very, it's doable. It's
It
doable.
it is doable, and that's what I try and get across to them, that,
Mhm.
maybe, I mean, a lot of people have great supportive families too. Maybe you sit down with your family and, you're going to the grocery store is not going to be sporadic, but it's going to be like, okay, on Mondays at 11 o'clock, I'm going to go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
So, talk about that schedule and how can you make that work, and just planning ahead so that it just is easier for everybody.
That's like a social outing too. It could be nice. You're with your daughter on
Yeah,
Monday, you're with your son on Tuesday, and there's your
exactly.
haircut,
Exactly.
whatever it is, doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
So it
But,
sounds like it has a good ending.
and sometimes, during our assessment, we may figure out that there's some significant, safety issues too that really need to be talked about. Like, I ask about everyday daily activities, and are you using the stovetop, and are you using the oven, and things like that, just thinking about safety and cognition with anybody. And if there are significant concerns and that person maybe hasn't been officially diagnosed with anything and hasn't had a neuropsych eval, sometimes I'll recommend that they have one, or that they go see an eye doctor because maybe they have an eye issue that they're not aware of, or maybe it's time to think about assisted living, or
or
something else.
even aging in place with alterations in your home,
Right, right,
But that's really neat. Here you were talking about the car, but that's just one piece of their life. The rest of their
exactly.
life they spend in the kitchen, in the bedroom, in the bathroom.
Mhm.
For everybody, there is home care programs, and if there's a reason to need any care, as long as there's a skill, a home care nurse could come out and then bring an OT in, and all the
Right.
equipment could be brought in, and it
Mhm.
could change everything, and you could age in place.
Yeah,
The,
absolutely.
the driving could lead us to the home. Actually, now
Right.
that I think about it,
Exactly.
vice versa. You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
very, very cool. So, how do you get paid? Actually?
How do
No
people pay
tea for
for these?
you. Yeah, or how do people, because a doctor or a nurse practitioner or PA refers, do they write
Mhm.
a prescription, I need a driver assessment, and they tell you where to
Yep.
go?
Yep.
They make an
Exactly.
appointment with you,
Yep.
and then
So
mhm,
most places it is an out-of-pocket expense, because unfortunately for some reason insurance does not reimburse for the driver assessment. At least here in Connecticut, they're not reimbursing for it,
oh,
which you think they would because it's preventative, but I
yeah,
don't know. So we always tell people, you can submit it and they may or may not, give you money for it because it is an occupational therapist that's performing the assessment. So some of the insurance companies will accept it and they will reimburse for part of it. But it typically is an out-of-pocket expense unless you're someone that is going through the state, so the Department of Aging and Disability. If you are a person that is working or looking for work that needs any type of vehicle modification to be able to be independent with driving, meaning they might need a ramp, or they might need hand controls, or they might need a left foot accelerator, whatever it may be.
yeah.
Um, they will help with the funding for the vehicle modifications for those people.
Oh,
So
interesting. So you have to be
yeah,
involved with the state then.
what's that?
You would have to be involved through the state then somehow.
Correct. Yes. So through the state, they will pay for the assessment, both the clinical and the behind the wheel, and they will also pay for the modifications to the vehicle.
Okay, that's very interesting. So what if they do have to pay out of pocket? Do you
So
have
if they
any
do have to
idea how much
pay,
it costs? I mean, just
well, yeah, so
trans-
our assessment, the total is 575, but we break it up into two pieces. So it's 400 for the clinical, and then it's 175 for the behind the wheel. If it's what we call a simple drive, meaning there's no need for any type of adaptive equipment. If there is a need for adaptive equipment, then it's 250 for the drive, because we're assessing them for the need for that adaptive equipment.
okay.
And then we also have a reassessment fee as well. And that's for those people, like we were talking about before, where maybe the recommendations are made for 6 months and then they need to be reassessed. So that fee is also 250. And that includes doing a behind the wheel as well as repeat of some of the clinical testing to be able to compare and contrast to what was seen previously.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's the Association for Driver what's the actual name of
Association for
that?
Driver Rehab Specialists.
Okay, and the actual ADED
Yes.
stands for,
Hey, Dad.
somehow their letters are mixing. Okay, well,
I know, it doesn't really make sense.
wow, no, I was trying to figure out how that all ended up alphabetically, but it doesn't. Okay, so everyone, the aded.net is the site. A for apple, D for dog, E for egg, D for dog.net. And it turns out that they're all over the world, which is a wonderful thing. It's international. So if you have parents, and I've been talking to people in Egypt and Pakistan and India, and you're in the same boat as all of us in America, because I'm finding that out as I'm doing my YouTube
Mhm.
during this COVID. You can go on that site, put in what country you're in, find the locator of a clinician
Of a
who's
provider,
involved in
yeah.
the program, can
Mhm.
refer you to the assessment and get you going so you feel like you're safe. Is there anything else you want to tell everyone that you think would be helpful to pull this all together?
I think that, there's a huge stigma with, telling someone that they can't drive and
Yeah.
that, questioning someone's abilities. And I think that, people need to think about it from a different perspective where, it's not, you know, taking you and saying, well, you can't do this and, you have problems and whatever else. It's more like, you know what, we're concerned about your safety and we just want to see how you're doing and what we can do to help you to make sure that you're safe and that other people on the road are safe. And I think that putting it in a different light can be very helpful for a lot of people to even explain it to their loved ones as to why they're even coming, because some people do come in, very angry and, but by the time they leave and we've chatted and we've done all the testing, they have a much better understanding. And, it's usually not such a bad thing at the end.
Until they get in the car and yell at their daughter.
Right. Exactly.
It's the part that you don't see. Yeah, the caregiver really gets the kick in the
They
butt.
definitely get the brunt of it, that's for
They do,
sure.
They do.
But they're definitely also thankful that, there was an objective assessment that was done that provided them with reasoning as to why someone should or should not be driving.
That's so cool. So Rachaell Corbett is located in Connecticut, everyone. She does see people from around the New York, Connecticut borders.
Rhode Island.
That area, Long Island.
Mhm.
Did you say Rhode
Rhode
Island?
Island.
Rhode
Oh
Island.
yeah, I've seen people from Long Island too.
Oh, okay, Rhode Island, Long Island. But if you guys get stuck on this site, you can always, I've got a Facebook page, facebook.com, caregiver success. I'm going to put some information about Rachaell there, Rachaell Corbett, so that you can have a email to send her some questions, concerns. I'm going to send you the internet site to actually get the registration for an assessment for driving for your parent or for yourself. And at least you know the cost of it. And it's actually worth every penny, you know. And if you have a disability, you can have your car adapted perhaps if you get registered as a disability through the state. So it won't cost you an arm and a leg to put this car in order kind of thing. This has been wonderful. I'm so glad that you came on board. I do have a book out, everyone, called Caregiver Success, and it's really to help people feel happy about getting older, because we're all, if we live long enough, hopefully we'll get there, and kind of enjoy the ride, whatever that ride is, and adapt as we go and keep a positive, hopeful outlook. So check that out on my www.caregiversuccess.com page. It's called Caregiver Success, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Caregiver Success. I'm Nancy, the nurse practitioner, and I got a whole bunch of videos out there for you to help you stay well. So Rachaell, thank you so much. This was so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great. You take care, and we'll be talking again soon, I'm sure.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, see ya. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.